Hey guys, how's it going? We're going to make a video today that I should have made years ago, and I mean years ago, and that's going to be the my official Tucson Gem Show guidebook, and how to navigate Tucson, the official Tucson Gem Show guidebook by yours truly. As somebody who's been going to Tucson now for about, I think this will be my ninth year, I think. The last 3 years, I actually was an exhibitor, and I'll be exhibiting again this year as well. So I know Tucson from both sides, right? As going there, being a buyer or just being an enthusiast, checking it out and making purchases, and also exhibiting and vending. I've always thought to myself, someday I need to make a guide about this because Tucson has grown into this massive, massive show. It's absolutely enormous. It's, in my opinion, too big. It's grown too big, and there's just too much to see, too much to do, and you can't fit everything in that small time frame of 3.5 weeks that Tucson's going on. Rather, you're gonna have to come back year after year, and eventually you might see, if you're lucky enough and you allocate your time efficiently enough, you might see like half of Tucson right after 3 or 4 years. There's always something new to see there because it's grown so big, and that's why it's important to really make the best out of your time, be the most efficient. What are you going there for? What do you want to see? What do you want to look at? What do you want to purchase? And just make the most out of your time. Be very efficient, very militaristic about it, and allocate your time perfectly so you don't waste any time. And a lot of people have asked me over the years, well, what is Tucson, right? What is the gem show? What exactly goes on there? Because it's just gotten so big now, it's so complex that it's kind of hard to really explain it unless I make a full detailed video like I am now. So I'm gonna do this video into different topics, into different sections of part 1, part 2, part 3. And starting with part 1, we're gonna talk about the introduction of Tucson, and we're gonna talk about what it is and how it all got started. So when I say the words Tucson Gem Show, or when anybody else says the word the Tucson Gem Show, there's two different meanings for that phrase, and I don't think people are aware of it. So the actual Tucson Gem Show, the show that's trademarked the name the Tucson Gem Show, is actually the club show, the Mineral Society Club Show, which goes on for just that weekend, I think Thursday to Sunday, near the end of all the other shows, right? That is the first show. Now that is the first show in Tucson. I think this will be their 70th anniversary this year for 2025. It started in 1955, and it's been going on ever since. And all the other shows have essentially grown from that. The whole industry, the whole business has essentially grown from this one small show into what it is today, this very complex city, if you will, full of shows, the city of Tucson. If you're just being very specific, then that is what you're talking about, is the actual club show. But when I say this word, when I say the phrase Tucson Gem Show, or when anybody else says it, I would say 95% of the time they're talking about the city as an entirety, as a whole, all the shows that go on at the same time. They're talking about everything, not just this one show. But it's important to distinguish the two because they are very different, right? And you need to know exactly where you're going to go. So Tucson is comprised of actually 42 different independently owned and operated independent companies operating their own shows within Tucson, within the time frame of the Tucson Gem Show, which is usually starts around January, the last 2 weeks of January and the first 2 weeks of February. But it gets moved around, pushed around, plus or minus 1 week every year. This year for 2025, we're actually starting a week later. So we'll be starting on the last week of January, going into about 2.5 to 3 weeks of February. And it runs during the wintertime, the same time every year, and usually for a time frame about 3 to 3.5 weeks. Each show has their own schedule. Each show has their own dates, when they open, when you can come in, when you can do some pre-buying, but they all kind of work together to kind of run along the same dates, the same time frame, which is going to be that kind of last week of January going on into 2.5, 3 weeks into February. Now, each show is different, right? There's different stuff to see. There's different vendors. It's because of that, it's so big. So you have 42 independently owned and operated shows, right? Out of the 42, there's going to be like a big 4 or 5, which these top 4 or 5 shows are the main attractions. They have the most vendors. They have the most spaces, right? They probably have 200-300 vendors in the show. They probably rent out a whole entire massive complex, a tent along the freeway, or they just have a lot of vendors, and they're spread out through a big swath of land, if you will, in Tucson. We're going to talk about the top 4 or 5, and then I'll mention all the other ones as well. So that was part 1. Part 1 is all about distinguishing the Tucson Gem Show, which is just a Mineral Club Society show, and then the original show, and then all the other shows, right? Of course, we're in Tucson, Arizona, and we talked about the dates as well. So part 2 is going to be navigating the show and kind of like knowing where you want to go, what you're going there for, right? Because what you're going there for has a big play on where you're going to go, what show you're going to go. Tucson draws in a lot of people from all over the world. It's not just people that buy minerals and crystals for their crystal business, their online store, etc., their online shop. Maybe they're selling on Instagram or something, live sales. It brings in everybody, and it's not just business. It's artists, it's interior designers, it's jewelry. It's gemstones. It's not just minerals. It's art, home decor. It's like a little bit of everything, right? It's not just minerals, although primarily it is minerals, crystals. And each show specializes in something different. For example, you guys have seen my vlogs, right? Where over the last 6 years, I think I've been taking a camera to Tucson and vlogging the shows, and now a lot of people have been doing it too. And you'll see the different vendors and different shows. Most people go to the main shows with all the minerals, and they showcase the beautiful amethyst cathedrals, etc. I do that too as well. That show, that's a good indication of what you can expect at that show. So for example, I'm also an exhibitor, right? I exhibit at the 22nd Street show, which is one of the top big 3. 22nd Street show is probably the biggest show in Tucson in terms of foot traffic, people coming in and seeing the show. A lot of people come to the show. I think it's the most visited show in all of Tucson. And at the 22nd Street show, you're going to find a little bit of everything. You're going to find wholesale, you're going to find retail, you're going to find minerals, crystals, gemstones, jewelry, high-end jewelry, very high-end art. Very unique things. So it's a good combination. It's a good balance of a little bit of everything. I highly recommend coming to the 22nd Street show if you're a first timer in Tucson, because you get to get a little taste of everything, and maybe you might end up buying or seeing what you want, finding what you want, and making that purchase there. There's another show that's part of the big 3, and that's the Kino Sports Complex show. Kino Sports Complex. Now these shows, that's the actual name for the show. So again, we're talking about the Tucson Gem Show as a whole, as the city as a whole, but each show has, again, their own individual names because they're independently operated by separate companies. The 22nd Street show is called that because it literally sits on the 22nd Street in downtown Tucson. The Kino Sports Complex show is called that because it's over at the Kino Sports Complex, where they have like a baseball field and where they have sporting events, when it's not a gym show. So it's over there, and that show is more of like wholesale raw minerals kind of. It's more like that open air tents, like a flea market kind of atmosphere where it's very spread out. You have to walk a lot. It's more of that wholesale minerals, and that's really all you're really going to find there, with the exception of a couple of vendors who sell more unique things as opposed to just minerals and just stones, minerals, crystals. There's other shows, for example, like Jogs, right? Jogs is like a jewelry only show, with the exception again of a couple of vendors that sell minerals and crystals like amethyst, but it's really tailored towards jewelry, high-end jewelry, designer jewelry, wholesale supply jewelry, etc. So whatever it is that you're going to Tucson for, you need to know what show tailors to your craft, your specialty, your needs, etc. Again, it's not just minerals and crystals. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't name everything, right? Because 42 shows, and not only do you have 42 independently owned shows, you also have, over the years, dealers, right? Dealers who have decided to move to Tucson because the business is there, and they've opened up like a warehouse, for example, and they call their warehouse a show. It's not really a show. They're open year round, probably by appointment, but it's big enough to where you can go in there and spend like half a day there looking at different things. Then you have galleries, you have the higher end stuff, you have galleries, and they're all kind of centered more or less in downtown Tucson. So you have a lot going on. It's more than 42 if you also add the individual warehouses. Over the years, as the business grows, as vendors grow and dealers grow, they eventually move to Tucson and they open up their own store, their own warehouse, and they kind of do like an open house during the show dates, and they want to call it a show. It's really just their own warehouse, but we can also include that as well because that is a big thing now. And also you have galleries. That doesn't include the 42 that I talked about. So there's a lot going on, folks, and you really have to know what you're going there for and what you want to see. I named 3 of them so far. There's another one. There's the hotels. So as you're driving down Highway 10, there's a whole chain of hotels, right? And the hotels are going to be shows as well, where people actually deal gemstones and minerals out in their hotel room, the same room that they sleep, as well as tents in the parking lots. And it's a big show. It's a whole row of them along Highway 10, and it encompasses about probably 4 or 5 different shows. Each show, again, having over 50 or 100 vendors. So a lot to see and a lot to do. Most of the hotel shows are going to be minerals and crystals. And then you have your higher end stuff, like your higher end collector stuff. The high-end mineral show, which is going to be the Mineral City, which is like little kind of hole-in-the-wall storage units. It's a whole complex, right? And each unit is a vendor there that operates out of that unit, and they have their own display cases, and they have high-end mineral specimens, etc. It's more of a relaxed, kind of more of an intimate atmosphere as opposed to just an open tent, right? Because it draws a higher end crowd of people. It draws more money in. I don't know. It draws higher end specimens. You can be more intimate with the dealers and the vendors, and you can talk to them, etc. So there's that as well. And then you have wholesale only shows where you have to show a seller's permit. You have to show that you have a business license or a seller's permit in order to gain entry. It's not open to the public, like the GJX complex or the Holodome, right? These are all wholesale, strictly business B2B sales only. So if you want the whole list, you're gonna have to look it up online, because again, I can't name them all off the top of my head. But again, they all run through the same dates of that, last couple of weeks of January into February. So I highly recommend you guys do that if you're a first timer. Right. But I also recommend, if you don't want to do that and you just want to go there and just experience Tucson, go to the top 3 shows that I mentioned. Again, I'm also an exhibitor. So I kind of, I have an understanding from both sides of Tucson. 22nd Street show and the Keno Sports Complex are really good shows to check out. They're open to the public. You don't need to have a business license, although if you're going to buy wholesale, vendors will require you to have a seller's permit or business license number, so they can, put that down in their records. But go check it out. It's definitely for a first timer, or I go there anyways. Every year I go there and just see what's out there and talk to the vendors and see what all the cool things that you can find there. So that would be part 2, which is kind of like how to plan your show, navigating the show. If you just Google Tucson Gem Show, you're gonna find the link to the main show that I mentioned earlier, where it's just that one show on the weekend ran by the Mineral Society Club. But if you Google Tucson Gem Show schedule or all the different shows, you can see all the different individual shows. You can see their dates, and then you can plan your trip accordingly. So that's part 2. Part 3 is going to be accommodations and travel and expenses, etc. A lot of people travel internationally coming into Tucson. Tucson, there's a famous saying that we like to call Tucson, and that's basically the world. The world comes in Tucson. The world comes to you, right? You don't have to travel the world to find these beautiful trinkets and artifacts and minerals and crystals from all over the world. People from all over the world internationally travel to Tucson to exhibit and sell their goods in Tucson. And that's why Tucson is so magical, so beautiful, because every year you see something new, something different, a piece of somebody's culture, right, that they bring over to the Sonoran Desert to sell. It's amazing. But traveling can be expensive. Your travel costs are all part of your expenses, right? If you're going there for a business on a budget of $25,000, you got to incorporate your hotel stay, your Airbnb, your travel expenses. Now, here's some of my recommendations. If you can, drive to Tucson. Do not fly, because if you fly and you intend to purchase a lot of material, especially big rocks, big minerals, heavy big rocks, minerals, crystals, etc., at wholesale, and you intend to buy a lot of things, shipping is very costly, very expensive. Putting it on a pallet is very expensive. If you're buying jewelry, that's fine. You can fly, no problem. But if you're not buying jewelry and you're buying big minerals, or you want to make big purchases of big things that are big and heavy that require to be put on a pallet, I recommend driving. And here's why. Shipping's very expensive. You run the risk of breaking your item. It's so much easier to rent a car if you have a big SUV, a truck, or even better, a van, right? Rent a van. And if you live domestically in the US, if you live even in Mexico or Canada, right, and you want to come to the show and you want to make big purchases, drive. Highly recommend that. Because you can just take it, you can put it in your car, and you can just drive home. And then that's it. If you were to ship things on a pallet, you have to find a broker, you have to organize all your stuff, put it on a pallet, wrap it up nicely, right? Make sure everything is safe. And also, when you make purchases at the show, dealers do not pack your items for shipping. They may put a loose piece of paper. If let's say you buy a mineral, a crystal, they might put a loose piece of paper around it and put it in a plastic bag, and here you go. Okay, boom. And that's really not their fault. If you tell somebody that you need to pack it, can you pack it for shipping? They might do it for you, depending on the person. I know I do it for my clients when I make a sale. Somebody says, well, it's going to be shipped. All right, I'll pack it extra tightly, extra secure, put it in a box, make sure everything is safe and secure. Not everybody does this, right? Some people don't care. They'll just put a loose piece of paper around it, a piece of paper towel, put it in a plastic bag. Okay, here you go. Obviously, you can't put that on a pallet. You have to really wrap it up nicely, and all that's gonna just add on to your expenses, your overhead of doing business, right? That's why I highly recommend just driving there if you can. If you're flying internationally, overseas, coming to Tucson to make purchases for your business, it's going to be harder to do that. Obviously, you're gonna have to put on a pallet. So just make sure everything is secure. But I've heard numerous times, year after year, and it's happened to me too, where things break in shipping, and it's the saddest thing. Because once it breaks, it's done. It's broken, and you can't enjoy the piece. You can't sell it like you normally would have. So that's why I recommend driving. Also, accommodations, hotels and Airbnbs. Things get very expensive in Tucson during the Tucson Gem Show days, and that's because the city now has been very well aware for the last decades or so, probably more, that Tucson is the biggest event. The Tucson Gem Show is the biggest event in that city by far. People come in, obviously they need accommodations, they need a place to stay. The average price, let's say the average price for a hotel in Tucson at any other time of the year is $80 a night, right? For any basic hotel like a Best Western, a Holiday Inn, whatever, what have you, that price is doubled during the Tucson dates, sometimes even times 2.5 or even 3x, because they will purposely price gouge and increase the prices as you get closer to the show. And I've noticed for myself that if you book a hotel on the first day or the day before the first day of the show, it's usually like 3 times, maybe even 3.5. It's really ridiculous how much they charge. And we're talking, you're staying 30 minutes away from the show, so you still have to drive 30 minutes one way. The best thing you could possibly do, and not everybody can do this, but the best thing you could possibly do to save money, not only save money, but have a good time, like the best time you're ever going to have is get a group of friends, right, that that's going to Tucson, whether it's people with their own separate businesses, etc., and people that you know and trust. Get them together and rent out an Airbnb, a house, if you will, and split the cost between everybody. That is the most fun you're ever going to have, I promise you, and it's also going to save you a lot of money. Airbnbs don't go up in price as much as hotels do, but they also do as well. If you are just going there solo or just with another person, you can just rent out a room in a house in an Airbnb. Maybe it'll cost you $80-$90 a night. Still kind of a typical price, better than $250 a night, right? Also, if you plan on doing that, whatever you plan on doing, whether it be a hotel or whether it be Airbnb or a group of friends coming in, book your stuff way in advance. I'm talking 4 or 5 months in advance. Plan your trip that far out, maybe even further out. Some people plan it a year in advance, because things get taken up like that. Things get bought out like that. Even that expensive hotel that they price gouge and put a 3x markup on, it's going to get sold out. So that's why you should really consider booking in advance. And this is my personal opinion. If you want to save money, get a group of friends and get a big Airbnb. Have a bunch of fun. You can cook your own food. You don't have to go out to eat every night. Obviously, they can save money there as well. Whatever you can do to save some extra money, because all of it's part of your business expense, right? If you have a $25K budget, maybe $5K is going to just literally traveling alone. Shipping, your rental car, food while you're there, that's so you have to plan your budget accordingly. The $25K is not going to go just to rocks and minerals and jewelry. Moving on here, part 4 is going to be just practical tips, general practical tips while you're in the city of Tucson. Number 1, wear comfortable shoes. Wear comfortable thick soles, like a nice pair of Hokas, right, that really support you, because you're going to be on your feet all day. You're going to be walking around show to show. There's not really places to sit at these shows. You can't just sit somewhere and just relax. You're going to be on your feet. through the whole show. You're going to be walking around. You're going to be very excited, looking at everything. But before you know it, you'll be standing up for the next 3-4 hours. And then the only time you'll get to sit down is when you get in your car to drive to the next show and to do that again. So wear very comfortable shoes, walking shoes, running shoes with thick soles. I love my pair of Hokas. I'm on my feet all day anyway because I'm an exhibitor there, and I can't really sit down. I'm always standing up. So first advice, wear comfortable shoes. Number 2, if you're there to make wholesale purchases for your business and you're going to buy a lot, bring a wagon. You can buy them at Walmart, Costco, etc. Those little pulley wagons where they fold and collapse. Bring a wagon so you can make runs to your car back and forth, or you can just hold it with you as you're walking from vendor to vendor, show to show, etc. Number 3, I don't generally recommend leaving product with inventory. A lot of people will buy something and say, okay, well, I'll come pick it up, later or something. But I do this for all my clients, right? If somebody buys something from me and they say, well, can you leave it here? And what I do is I put their name and I put sold on the box, and then so I know whose it is. And I have a special shelf where I plan, just like this one right here, the 5-tier shelf where I put sold orders. I don't generally recommend doing it unless you trust the vendor, unless you know the vendor, right? The people that do it with me, they know me, they trust me, and I just kind of leave it aside because there are sometimes horror stories where things get lost. You leave your stuff with the vendor, the next day the vendor it's all magically gone or whatever, disappears. Who knows? So I don't recommend it unless you know the person, right? Number 4, stay hydrated. Very important. This is very overlooked. I highly recommend you to stay hydrated. I mean, drink a lot of water, drink a lot of electrolytes, those Pedialyte things you can buy at CVS, at pharmacies. I go through one of those every 2 days. I gulp the whole thing down because what you guys need to understand is we're in the Sonoran Desert. Tucson is part of the Sonoran Desert, and it is dry and cold. It's dry and cold at night and warm in the day, right? The temperature varies so dramatically. Some years we go there, it can be just so freezing cold. And other years it's raining all day, every day. And other years it's just dry. But overall, it's going to be very dry. If you're coming from a more, coastal climate where there's more moisture in the air, you're going to feel it. I promise you're going to feel it. You're going to feel your skin drying up. Everything's chapped up. You're going to feel dehydrated, thirsty all the time. I lost my voice when I was in Tucson one time. I was making a vlog with my friend Christine, and we were walking the 22nd Street show, and I was also a vendor there, and we were doing a walk and talk, right? And I have that video on my YouTube. After that, we made that video. I couldn't talk. I was, I had lost my voice because it was so dry, and I kept talking, and I wasn't properly hydrated. Don't overlook that. Very important. Very, very important. Especially you're going to be on your feet, moving around, walking. And if you're not somebody that's like in shape and you're not exercising regularly, you're not used to that, and then mix in with this dry climate, you're going to be in trouble. So drink a lot of water, carry a big water bottle with you all day, drink electrolytes, do whatever you can to stay hydrated. On the topic of staying hydrated, I just stopped and I took a little coffee break here. These are cool little coffee mugs I got in Brazil. Cheers, guys. So yeah, staying hydrated, very important. Obviously, coffee is not going to get you hydrated, but when you're in Tucson, please stay hydrated. Don't overlook it. It's a very important topic that nobody really talks about. The Sonoran Desert is very dry. So please take care of yourselves. Remember, health is wealth. If you don't have health, you have nothing. Doesn't matter how much money you make. Doesn't matter how much business you do. You need to be in good health as well. So, number 5, we're going to talk about purchasing now. We're going to talk about how to buy. So we talked about the where and the what. So now let's talk about how, because buying in Tucson is also like an art form as well. Buying in Tucson is it's important to know how to deal with those people and how to deal with the vendors and how to deal with purchasing, especially if you're purchasing for a business. Now, Tucson is very serious business, okay? People come to Tucson for all different reasons, whether it be you're enthusiast, you're a collector, you're a high-end collector, you're coming there for jewelry, you want to buy that one real nice, beautiful jewelry, or you're looking for something for your house, or you have your own business, right? And you're buying wholesale for your business. It's very serious business, and even if you don't come there specifically for business, you need to treat it like a business trip. You need to treat it like business. So I've actually heard people give different suggestions and advice on how to buy in Tucson. And again, this is all my subjective advice for you guys as well. Take it or leave it. Take what you find beneficial and leave out the rest. No problem with me. But I've heard people say that you want to first you want to look around and then you want to make your purchases after. Now, generally speaking, that's good advice. But Tucson is a whole different beast on its own, and it's not going to be the most efficient advice for everybody. It's not going to be the most appropriate advice for everybody. And let me explain why here. So, if you were to add up all the sales, if you were to add up all the money made in Tucson from all the vendors that made sales, or all the transactions that happened, or all the money that gets moved around in Tucson, I can guarantee you that the first couple of days and the last couple of days are going to be the bulk of the main transactions that happen in Tucson. The most money that gets made, the most money that gets moved around, it's going to happen in the first couple of days. Because buying in Tucson is it's almost like a sport. Hell, it's not even a sport. It's like the Olympics of the mineral world. And the thing is, people are seasoned veterans when it comes to Tucson. People have been going to the shows years and years and years now, buying and selling, etc. And they know the game, and they play the game, and they play it well. Here's the thing. And I'm talking strictly in the mineral world here, in the mineral and crystal world, every year there's new production, there's new mines being opened, there's new finds from old mines, there's new pockets being opened, and yeah, as you guys know, in the mineral world, everything is unique and individual. Whether it be that $5 crystal or that $50,000 crystal, everything is unique. Nothing is mass produced. Nothing is manipulated by humans. It's all natural, and it has its own unique characteristics. When good things get produced, when good quality rare items like beautiful tourmalines and beautiful tourmaline specimens, world class high grade specimens get produced, it gets eaten up. It gets bought out really fast right away. And that's usually what happens with typically speaking, good things in Tucson. People come to Tucson and they shop before the shows even open, right? They shop 2 to 3 days in advance. They walk the shows as vendors are setting up, and they're watching the stuff being pulled out of the boxes. They're watching the stuff being set up on display, and they're making offers right there and then. And again, this is theoretical, but I believe it to be true, that the most sales and the most money gets moved around on the first couple of days and the last couple of days. The good things get sold out really fast right away. If you come back the next day, if you see something you really like and it's really good, and you know other people are going to like it, you come back in a day or two, gone. I can almost guarantee you it's gone, unless it's really expensive. But I can almost guarantee you that there's other eyes looking at it. There's other offers being given. It's really competitive when it comes to buying in Tucson, especially if you're buying rare, unique one-offs. If there's something that you really want that's high quality, again, that's really good and rare and unique, because it gets bought out right away, offers are being made. I can tell you guys a story. Every year, every single year, I'm setting up in Tucson at the 22nd Street show as an exhibitor. As I'm pulling boxes out of my van and putting stuff on display, there are people, buyers, who get in the show before the shows even start, and they do pre-buying. They get a badge or a pass from somebody they know, and they walk the shows and they're buying. They're looking at my stuff. I had one gentleman watch me as I was unpacking my items at the show a couple years ago, and literally the moment I pull something out, and if he liked it, he would just say, "Oh, let me see that. Okay, how much do you want?" Right there and then, give me an offer on the spot. I made sales right there on the spot before I could even put anything on display. Before anything, boom, it's already sold. So that happens a lot in Tucson, again, because it's like the Olympics, right? It's like the mineral. It's a sport, and people play the game, and they play it well. So knowing how to buy is very important. Realizing that good things go fast is also important. And you're not going to have a lot of negotiating power. You're not, because if it's really good, it's in high demand. Vendors aren't generally gonna lower the price for you. Especially if you give like a low ball offer, you might disrespect the vendor and they might just laugh at you, and you're never going to deal with them again. That also happens. So be wary if you're going to make offers as well. Don't lowball somebody to the point where they don't take you seriously and then they just laugh at you. I myself have had lowball offers, and that's my reaction. It's like, okay, well, I know this person's not serious. Well, I'm not going to waste any more time with this person. Time is money, and I can't waste time because I pay a lot of money to be here at the show, to be an exhibitor. So be wary of that, but definitely make an offer if you really want something and it's really good and you know it's gonna go. Now, on the other end, on the other side of that, Mass production, general production items aren't typically going to get sold out right away. When I say general production in the mineral world, I'm talking about polished tower points of some basic semi-precious stone like quartz, right? This stuff is produced in mass by many people. The Chinese, the Madagascar, the Brazilians, the Madagascar wholesalers, and the Brazilians. They produce these things in mass, and that's not going to go away. Okay, that's going to always be there. So if you want to make an offer like a wholesale offer, right, for a big lot, it could be better to wait because, chances are that it's probably going to be there, and chances are, depending on who you're working with, you may get a better deal at the end of the show. The vendor may just feel like, well, I don't want to, pack everything up. Why don't you take everything and I'll give you a deal. That's also a possibility if you're buying general production stuff. Now, we also have to know the difference between buying wholesale and just buying retail. Well, I've had people come up to me in my booth and ask me, well, what's the wholesale price on this? And I said, well, if you're just buying one piece, it's not wholesale. The whole word wholesale implies that you're buying a big lot, right? So sometimes people want a better deal on just a single piece, but they call it wholesale. Maybe they don't know any better. You can always ask the vendor, like, hey, do you have a discount for this one piece, right? If you say wholesale, that implies you're buying a quantity, not just one piece. So keep that in mind as well. If you want a deal, you can always ask. But if you give somebody too low of an offer, they're not going to take you seriously because, again, it is business, and people aren't there to waste time as well. So how to buy is very important. Knowing what you're going there for, and going straight to that vendor, that booth, that show, and making those offers as early as you can, or seeing what's out there is important. Because people that say, well, generally the first day you look around and then you buy on the second day, really depends on what you're buying. For the good stuff, for the rare, unique stuff that comes out, it's going to be gone the first day. I guarantee you. People are already making offers even before the show starts. And that's just the reality of what it is. Now, it's theoretical, but I believe it to be true because I've seen year after year, time after time, people doing these things at the shows. So that's part 5, guys, is how to buy, purchasing, and how to buy. So now let's move on, guys. Let's move on to part 6 now. Part 6 is going to be sourcing. And part 6 is going to tie into part 5, how to buy, sourcing, and the people you deal with. Okay, it's very important. This topic in itself can be a whole video. I can make a whole video about this topic in itself. But the reason why I'm just going to put it in the video now, I'll make a brief summary of kind of my opinions on this topic and what I've known to be true over the years, again, through my own personal experiences. Sourcing and the people you deal with. There seems to be this obsession, this weird obsession with sourcing, finding ethically sourced minerals, and this label, this title that people put on, this kind of like a virtue signaling title that people like to use to feel good about themselves. A lot of people like to claim that they are ethically sourced, minerals and whatnot. Well, I'm here to tell you that is complete BS. It is complete untrue. There is no such thing as ethically sourced crystals, period, the end. Unless you pick that rock, that mineral up by yourself, with your own bare hands, and you did all the work, and then you're selling it, okay, then it's ethically sourced because you did the work yourself. But you don't know who touched it before you. You don't know how many hands that mineral has touched, who mined it, and then from the mine to all the middlemen dealers on how many hands ultimately to Tucson and then to you. You don't know. And that's why I try my best. I travel to these countries. I go to the mines. I try to get as close as I can possibly to the source. And I document everything. I share that content with you guys here on YouTube. And I try to be as transparent as possible. I try to be as honest and transparent as possible in this industry because I feel like this industry needs more transparency, needs more honesty, needs more people that are willing to actually not just lie just to try and make a sale. People are obsessed with trying to label their minerals, their rocks and minerals, ethically sourced when it is completely untrue. And they should know, especially if they're a big dealer or a big vendor or a big a retailer, like a big business, right? They've been in the game long enough to where they should know that is not true. But people like to throw this term around, and then you have other people that are like, well, I only want ethically sourced, blah blah blah. So I want to shed some light on this topic right now. First of all, minerals and crystals. All the minerals and crystals around the world make up for only like 2 or 3% of all the mining activity that goes on worldwide. Most of the minerals that we find are actually byproducts of industrial mining. Let's say a big company, a multi-billion-dollar mining company, opens up a pit, does a big, massive open pit mine in the middle of the jungle somewhere, and they're looking for industrial minerals like tin, copper, zinc, cobalt, silver, gold, etc. Things that are used worldwide for industrial equipment and in our everyday electronics. Well, what happens is when you dig up the earth like that, you're going to find minerals as well. You're going to find crystal deposits. You're going to find semi-precious stones along with all these other industrial minerals. That thing gets sold off into the mineral market, the various brokers, etc. And then ultimately somebody will take it to Tucson. That is the reality of most of the minerals that gets produced. Very rarely do you find a mine that gets opened up just for minerals, just for like crystals and gemstones. And the only time that happens is when there needs to be enough value there, because it's so expensive to mine. It's so expensive to dig the earth that it's just not worth it for most minerals. This industry, this market is not big enough to where you can justify paying millions of dollars in expenses every month to maintain mining equipment, etc., to pay employees to dig a massive hole in the ground. It's very hard to do this. I just recently visited a mine where in Brazil with Marco Tironi, the Pedernera mine, the Cruzeiro mine, where he's digging just specifically for tourmaline. Only a very small amount of people actually do this, and when they do, they're small operations. They're like family-owned, artisanal operations, artisanal mining, if you will, where it's not a big giant company digging up a mile diameter hole in the ground, right? So that is reality, is that most minerals are byproducts. So people that feel bad about, oh my gosh, you're digging up the earth, blah, blah, blah. Actually, the materials that you have in your household, the everyday electronics that you use, the car you drive, the refrigerator, everything you're doing right now, watching the phone you're watching this video from, or the computer screen, or the computer itself, probably has a lot more of effect on mining than the crystal, right? Probably by 1,000 times. But we don't know. People don't know. They're ignorant of it, and they think that, okay, if I just adhere to this label of sourcing ethically sourced crystals, that I'm doing something good for the planet. In reality, it's the complete opposite. Then you have dealers who also like to use this label. These are mostly retailers. Retailers that have a business like on Instagram, like they're selling, live sales, or maybe they have a store or something like that, that are selling crystals and claiming that they're ethically sourced. It's also complete BS. It's completely untrue. And I actually recommend not doing business with these people. I wouldn't trust these people, first of all. I just would not trust them, because if they've been in the business long enough, they know that what I'm saying is true, that there is no ethically sourced crystals unless you dig it up with your own hands, period, the end. And if people are still using this label, saying that they are all ethically sourced, then in my opinion, they're not trustworthy people, and I wouldn't trust them, and I wouldn't give them any money. I wouldn't do business. I wouldn't buy from them, period, the end. That's just how it is. By now, people should understand this. And so if you're worried about ethically sourced crystals, just know that it's not what you think it is. People aren't digging massive giant holes in the earth and, tearing up the earth and all this stuff for that amethyst crystal. It's not like that at all. These are very small scale operations, and it's a complete opposite of what people think is going on. You don't have to worry about it. I would be more conscious about who you're dealing with, right? Are they honest? Are they trustworthy? Are they good people? Or are they complete crazy lunatics? Because there are some of them, right? You gotta also keep in mind that these people are coming from cultures that are much different than your own, much different than the culture here in America. Everything in America, everything in the West is really soft. We're soft. We're very soft compared to some of the cultures that these people come from, and we're talking third world countries. That it's a very rough and rugged environment. Whereas here we're very protected and soft and shelled, etc. So some of these people can come off as kind of wild and out there to most Americans and to most Westerners doing business with them. That's fine. It's just make sure that who you're dealing with is actually a decent person. That's what I recommend. And also the beautiful thing is, you're dealing with small businesses, and the money that you give these people when you're making a purchase in at the show, it's going directly to feed their family, to pay their bills, myself included. We're all small businesses trying to make it. So it's different from feeding money to a big bureaucratic company like Amazon.com or something like that, right? So it's nice to know that your money is going into places that's going to help people directly. That's one thing. And also, by the way, if any retailer is selling anything from China, material from China, Brazil, or Madagascar, these are the big three countries that produce the most polishings, right? China is really known for beads. Most 100% of all beads come from China. A lot of polishings come from Madagascar and Brazil. Freeforms, towers, points, spheres, etc. Nothing is ethically sourced. It's absolutely irresponsible and a flat out lie for somebody to be selling that and then saying they're ethically sourced. How much, if you think about it, how can that beaded bracelet be so cheap? How can that polishing be so cheap? I mean, we're talking $2-3 for a beaded bracelet. The amount of time it takes to make 10 millimeter spheres, to cut and polish the raw material into 10 millimeter spheres and then drill a hole and then strand it. We're talking maybe a couple hours just for 2 or 3 bracelets. Minimum wage here in California alone is $20 an hour. How are you gonna make money selling $2-3 a bracelet, right? The math doesn't add up there. And same with the polishings. How is it that this big old polishing that's kind of a typical stone, how can it be so cheap when it takes so much time to cut and polish and shape it into that form? Hours alone. Well, there's a reason why it's so cheap. There's a reason why it's so inexpensive. And to claim, for anybody out there that's claiming that, I don't know. I remember seeing a lot of people claiming it back 10 years ago. I don't know if anybody's still saying that now, because people have changed now. People have realized, hey, it's irresponsible for me to say this now. People understand. They're not so ignorant anymore. But for anybody that's saying that today and claiming that they're ethically sourced is absolutely irresponsible and is a flat out lie. And again, I would stay away from those people. Personally, it's my opinion. I would stay away. I would never do business with them. I wouldn't trust them at all. If they're still making such a claim. So guys, don't worry about ethically sourced anything. Just, it's better to, this new term I'm starting to realize people are using is like consciously sourced, right? People love their terms. People love the virtue signal. I don't know what it is, but I think being conscious of who you're buying from is probably the best bet, and just knowing who you're buying from is probably the best bet, because again, you're buying from small businesses, not a big bureaucratic company like Amazon, where your money goes directly into paying that person's bills or feeding the family for that person. So it's much better than Amazon.com, and your money goes a lot further. But just be conscious of who you're buying. The thing about Tucson, like I said earlier, Tucson is a global marketplace. That's why it's so beautiful. Tucson is where the world comes to you. And I was talking to a dealer, sorry, not a dealer, a business owner in one of the gym fairs here in California. And her and I, we were talking about the business. We were talking about Tucson. She had her own business as well, selling minerals. And she was talking about Tucson. And I don't know of this personally, but apparently there is people out there claiming that they have, in Tucson, they have everything. You should only come and buy from them. People actually make these ridiculous claims that they have there's some kind of one-stop shop. You should only buy from them, and that you shouldn't shop the shows. You should just come to me and spend all your money with me. I don't personally know of anybody that actually makes such a ridiculous claim, a ridiculous, arrogant claim, but it's completely untrue. And the beauty of Tucson is that it is a global marketplace where the world comes to you. More often than not, a lot of wholesalers, like based here in America, American wholesalers are buying in Tucson just as well from the same people you can buy from during this time of show. They're buying from the same people that you have the opportunity to do business with as well, that you can buy from as well, and then they're reselling it to their clients. So I don't know of anybody personally making such a claim, but again, if somebody's making such a claim that they are the one and you should not shop for anybody but me, that's actually really ridiculous, and I don't know why anybody would say something like that. Maybe out of just pure greed or arrogance, but I wouldn't do business with those people either. If you guys know people like that, just be aware that's the same thing with the ethical sourcing. It's a blatant lie. A lot of stuff that people are buying wholesale, they're going to Tucson and they're getting it there and they're just reselling it. So that's just something I guess this is part 6. I was sourcing, but I want to raise awareness on, because again, this whole business, this whole industry needs more transparency. That's why every time I travel, I show you guys behind the scenes, the buying, going straight to the mines, working with the miners, talking and negotiating with the dealer, etc. in each respective country. So something to be aware of. That just kind of popped in my mind. But yeah, if somebody's saying any of these things, I just wouldn't trust them, period. There's many options out there in Tucson, and you don't have to buy from one specific person. Typically what happens is whenever you see something in Tucson, multiple people are selling the same product. So, you know, you can go around, especially if it's a mass-produced, general production, polishing, whatever, you know, crystal sphere. A lot of people are going to sell the same thing, if not similar. So if somebody's making such ridiculous claims, just forget about them and do your own homework. Walk around and find other people. There's other vendors that are probably going to be selling a similar thing, whether it be beaded bracelets, whether it be amethyst, you know, cathedrals, whether it be polished spheres or tower points, etc. I'm gonna wrap it up now, folks. I'm gonna finish up. So these are my 6 parts of my official, I guess, guide to Tucson by yours truly. And just general tips again. Overall, you know, plan your trip early. Please plan your trip early. Buy everything early, your accommodations, your plane ticket. But if you can't drive, it's much better to just load it in your car and go home, as opposed to putting it on a pallet. Because if you do put it on a pallet, again, you're going to have to find the broker. You're going to have to wrap everything up and protect it. You're going to have to double wrap, triple wrap. And if things break, then that's it. It's over. So plan your trip early. Get your accommodations. Get your things in order. Know what you want to see. Know what you're going there for. Obviously, if you have a business, you already know. And have fun, guys. The most important thing is to have fun in Tucson, because even though you're treating it as a business, you want to have fun. It is such a joy to be there. Again, there is no place I'd rather be at that time of year than Tucson, Arizona, and just walking the show and just looking at everything. I'd like to finish this video off now and let you guys know that I will be exhibiting there. I'm at the 22nd Street show, booth number D22 in the main tent along the wall. Please come see me, folks, if you haven't already. Come say hi, come check it out. I specialize in Brazilian material, also Pakistan stuff as well. I got some cool stuff to show you guys this year, and I look forward to seeing you guys there. Thank you again for watching the videos. Thank you for your support, and I hope to see you guys soon. I'll have some vlogs out in Tucson for you guys, and I hope to see you guys there.